I love that you said, "Who know it's time," because I think you do know when it's like, "I need something. I need to explore or get out of my comfort zone or just appreciate," right? So many things that we have around us.
Hi, this is Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. When was the first time you got outside of your comfort zone as an adult? For me, it was when I went on my study abroad to London, England, where I turned 20 years old while on the trip. Now, I'm the fifth of 7 kids, but I was the first to take an international voyage outside of serving a mission for our faith. Every morning in the classroom, we learned about the Great War, World War I, studying how its history inspired the literature, art, and music from the period. While the afternoons were spent exploring the sights, spending the little money we all had on nosebleed seats to any play, ballet, or musical we could attend, and seeing almost every piece of art we could as far as the transportation network could take us. This trip changed my life. It ignited a deep love for history, art, and culture. It pushed me to try new things. It challenged so much of my existing worldview. And it instilled greater knowledge of who I was and who I wanted to be. When I think of London, I think of it almost as the beginning of my real life. And yet, that first day, I clearly remember sitting on the bunk bed, scared to death. The whole house had just departed, going to take in the Big Ben before dinner and bed. But I elected to stay back, excusing myself because of some sort of earache I had at the time. But the truth was, I felt petrified. In a rare for me moment of courage that set the why not tone for the rest of my time there, I somehow rallied my determination, reminding myself that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I hurled myself out the front door, running to meet up with the group before it was too late. I often think about what would have changed if I had stayed safe in my comfort zone even while there. I had to learn to become an adventurer. Adventuring in one form or another has since become a great value in my life, whether it's locally, a few hours away, or much farther and harder to come by. Prioritizing getting out of my physical comfort zone has acted as a form of both self-care and rediscovery as it pushes me to get outside of my inner comfort zone. In that spirit, I'm so thrilled to share this episode with you. I am joined again by Brooke Eliason, the founder of Female Foodie, and someone who has learned firsthand how adventure, whether 4 hours away or across the ocean, can completely reshape how you see yourself and the world. We talk about how to become a woman who adventures, even if it's not in your nature. The story behind how Brooke and her husband turned a 3-month trip with a newborn into a 1.5-year journey across the US and Europe, and how this adventure inspired them to create a way for now hundreds of women to reconnect with themselves via their hosted tours to Italy. Whether you're itching for a big leap or just a baby step outside of your routine, this interview will inspire you to say, why not, too. Brooke Eliason is the founder of Female Foodie, an amazing resource for restaurant guides, restaurant-inspired recipes, and tours in Italy. Brooke and her talented team of food writers and recipe developers across the country make food and adventuring more possible for all of us. Brooke loves to make any food, hike, and spend time with her family. She's married to Cody, and they are the parent of 3 children, living in Washington and spending their spare time prioritizing friends, travel, and of course, food. You can find more about Brooke on her Instagram account, Female Foodie, on her Substack at Female Foodie, as well as her amazing podcast, That Was Delicious. That interview is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors, including an announcement of how I am partnering with Female Foodie on something really special. For far too long, I discounted us from seeking out a financial planner. We aren't wealthy, so commission-based advisors wouldn't look twice at us. And my dad had long warned us that advisors can be salespeople in disguise. And yet, I had all these major financial questions and anxieties that I knew Google would not be the right source to seek advice or to get answers from. Enter Fearless Finance, whose mission is to make advice affordable and accessible without all the headaches, high fees, commitments, and potential scams that come with traditional financial advisors. We've met with our advisor Elizabeth a few times, and she not only answered every question we had, which there were many, she helped build out a plan we could follow of tasks that would help us feel more financially secure both now and later. We are meeting with Elizabeth again soon to talk through estate planning, and honestly, I can't wait. If you're concerned about big financial questions and don't know who to turn to, check out Fearless Finance. You meet with your planner virtually and get charged by the hour down to the quarter hour. Whether you're looking to pay off student loans, buy a house, or just want to make sure your finances are okay, they can answer your questions. No question is too small, no problem is too big. Visit fearlessfinance.com today. You can chat with a planner for free to make sure it's a good fit, and you'll get $50 off your first planning meeting when you use the code PROGRESS. Again, go to fearlessfinance.com and use the code PROGRESS. This podcast is sponsored by Go Pure Beauty. You may already know this about me, but I love skincare. I have been so hyper diligent about taking care of my face since my early 20s thanks to a great dermatologist I happened to visit at the time. But guess what I forgot about for most of those years? My neck. Did you forget too? The skin on your neck is thinner, more delicate, and less oily than facial skin, so it requires special care. That's why Go Pure Beauty developed their revolutionary Tighten and Lift Neck Cream. Powered by clinically proven active ingredients, this advanced formula is designed to visibly firm, smooth, and rejuvenate the delicate skin on your neck and chest in as little as 4 to 8 weeks. I've been using the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream, and I've been loving it. The silky texture is so nice. My very sensitive skin has responded to it very well. And that's thanks to it being paraben and sulfate-free and made without harsh chemicals. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. And Go Pure isn't just about your neck. They have a full line of science-backed skin and body care to brighten, hydrate, and restore your glow from head to toe. From powerful vitamin C serums to deeply hydrating retinol moisturizers, every product is packed with clean, effective ingredients that deliver real results. With over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret is no longer a secret. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com/progress, use code PROGRESS, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from our show. I have a big, exciting announcement and personal invitation for you. Come to Rome with me. Is there anything better than being totally taken care of? For years, I've taught the importance of being on your own list. This is most often done in small and simple ways, but occasionally we choose to do something big and outside the norm to deeply prioritize ourselves. So what if you did that with me and in Rome, Italy? I am so overjoyed to announce that I am partnering with Female Foodie to host a tour to Rome in October of 2026. This trip will, of course, be full of great food and excellent accommodations, but most important to me, it's your opportunity to be deeply cared for. Your job is to get to Italy. Our job is everything else. Signups for the tour will be this fall, September 9th, to the waiting list only, with the general public getting access the next day if there are any spots left. If you're not familiar with Female Foodie tours, know that they sell out in literal minutes. Getting a tour exclusive to just the About Progress community is all kinds of special. You can get on the waiting list to ensure your best chance of reserving those extra limited spots before they sell out by going to aboutprogress.com/Italy. This tour must be booked with 2 or more guests at a time, so get a friend or 5 committed to come with you. And by the way, if you do have more than 2 coming, please reach out to me at hello@aboutprogress.com so we can assist you with that. I am so looking forward to doing something extra special and exploring the magic of Rome with you while adding my personal touch to the signature Female Foodie tour. Again, to get on the waiting list and first dibs to our limited spots, go to aboutprogress.com/Italy. Brooke Eliason, welcome to About Progress.
Monica, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be back on the show.
Yeah, as I was saying that, I meant welcome back, and you always have an open door here. I'm so excited to talk to you today. And last time, the episode we recorded about how becoming a foodie can heal your relationship with food was so helpful to so many. Today, we're going to go a little bit of a different direction, and we're going to be talking about adventure and how to become someone who is finding and building opportunities to adventure outside of the norms, which honestly goes hand in hand with being more of a foodie, I would say. So
Yes.
let me just start by asking you, I see an adventurous spirit in you, but has that always been who you are?
I will say I think I've grown even more into it with the experiences. And yes, I do think that inherently I am a little more drawn to like doing things that are fun, adventurous, slightly out of my comfort zone. But I also feel like as I've done those things more, my confidence has grown. I mean, even
Mm,
into adulthood, I actually find that as an adult, it can feel much scarier
mm,
to do things than like when I was a teenager or even in my early 20s. But I feel, just kind of reflecting on that, I feel like an experience I had that really kind of opened me to just like getting out of my comfort zone was when I first moved to West Yellowstone for a summer.
yeah.
I was in college, so again, like a little bit of that fearlessness element. I had never been there before to my recollection. I'm sure I had passed through, as a kid, maybe. But a girlfriend just said, "Hey, why don't you come up with me and we could like wait tables for the summer?" And I think I was just so excited to see and experience something different. And honestly, that experience changed my life.
Mm,
One summer turned into probably 4 or 5 over the years. Um, and it was so good for so many reasons. First of all, it was a different world than the world I grew up in, which was Salt Lake City, which I still love so much. But gosh, talk about a cultural difference with just a 4.5 hour drive, you know.
mhm, mhm,
This is a town where there's 1,000 people that live there year round. And not only that, but millions of tourists from all over the world that come in and pass through each year. So, I was just completely in a different world. I also feel like just, as a young adult, I didn't have a lot of commitments then. I didn't have kids or a spouse, but I feel like I really kind of was at this point in my life where I got to decide like what kind of person I wanted to be.
mhm.
So that was really cool to go up there and almost not feel like I had this identity, and I really got to choose, like, who is Brooke Foster? What is important to her? What does she spend her spare time doing? And then I think just, realizing that, like, there's not one right way to do things, right? That, going from this life I had known in Davis County, Utah, to a very much more blue collar or so many small business owners, right? Just
Mhm.
seeing the way they live and the values that they have was so different. So I feel like just that act of even just driving 4 hours away and just really like embracing, every part of of West Yellowstone for all of its quirks, for better or worse. I really do feel like that was a really good springboard for me.
I like hearing that it's something you grew into because one of the ways I can dismiss people who do things differently than me, even though I have some inkling or desire to do or be similar, I always think, well, that's just who they are. Like they just were born that way. And while it does sound like you had some of those tendencies, it's something that you grew in both comfort and desire. And that means we can do that too. It doesn't mean we have to necessarily be like, I'm going to hike Mount Kilimanjaro tomorrow, or I want to see every single country in the entire world before I'm 40. It's going to say 30, but I'm like, I think we're all like 30 plus by now. So that's not as applicable. It doesn't have to be so big. It's more about that desire in you and how that can grow because of the benefits you get from it, which you were touching on that a little bit as a young adult. Also got to expand on those benefits as a family. So tell us a little bit about how that grew to taking big adventures, including once you did have commitments of a spouse and kids and going on big adventures and what that brought for you and your family, why it became not just something that was worth it to you, but like a way you wanted to live your life.
Well, when Cody and we met in 2014 and we got married in 2015, so this is our 10-year
Well,
this year, which is
congrats.
crazy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know. Feels like a fun milestone, but after a couple years of living in Salt Lake, we moved to Texas, and long story short, I married a Texan, and honestly, I think I just knew deep down that if we didn't, like, try living there, that our whole marriage, as a true Texan, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Texas is awesome. I get
well,
that. You
I
knew.
love Texas, but Texans also, like, have more state pride than anywhere else in our country, I feel
Yeah.
like. And so I was, like, excited and curious about it, and also, yeah, I think I just knew deep down that, like, this is gonna happen at some point. Why don't we just, like, go see how it is? So we get to Texas, and unfortunately, it wasn't my I love visiting Texas. I love the people there. I love the food scene. I mean, we were in Austin, but
Yeah.
it was a little hard for me. It wasn't like my favorite place to live. I was pregnant almost the whole year we lived there. We got there, in at the end of summer, which their summers seem to last forever. So it was a definitely not an easy year. I learned a lot. We had a ton of fun. And at the end of the year, you know, Cody came up to me and he said, "Okay, our lease ends. Like, we can either renew our lease, or he's like, we could travel for the rest of the year." Which at this point it was September. We had about a 3-month-old baby, and we were living in a really cool neighborhood in a really crappy house that I had picked because I wanted the neighborhood, but I didn't quite have the budget for like
Mhm.
the place that I would have ideally lived in. And I just leapt at that. I mean, when
Mm.
he was like, "Do you wanna travel till through the end of the year?" I thought, "Of course." Even though we had a baby, I just thought, "This is gonna get harder." I knew we wanted to at least have, 2 or 3 kids, and he was working remote at the time. Now we work together in our business, but I absolutely had no idea we would be doing that. And I just kinda thought, like, "When else are we gonna get this chance?" And so our 3 months turned into a year and a half.
It's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, I honestly, I'm so grateful. I mean, I think there was definitely a part of me that was a little, I don't know, maybe protective of the experience because I felt like, man, I'm such a true millennial, it just felt so like, hashtag van life of even though we weren't living in a van. I'm sure, there were people that, kind of made their judgments or ideas about what we were doing. But oh my gosh, Monica, I have no regrets. I'm so grateful we did that. And the way we made it work, by the way, before I forget, is we would just get on Airbnb and find places that we could rent for a month at a time, which not always, but oftentimes a host will offer a discount for a 2 or 4-week stay. So that was my job. I found places, and we started in Montana because I just love Montana. We went over to Seattle, and then it just kind of snowballed, and those 3 months turned into 18 months, and we did go kinda all over the west side of the country. We stayed in LA, San Diego, Phoenix, the Portland area a couple of times, and then it eventually did snowball into going to Italy, which honestly, like, changed my life because that was the springboard into our tours. But, even from just that domestic travel itself, going from Utah or I should say Texas to even Montana to then Washington. Holy culture shock and culture change.
Mhm.
I mean, I will never forget accidentally cutting the ferry line in Seattle with my car, like,
Oh, yeah.
like I was just like not quite sure where I was and I kind of like just like wedged my way in and just the people were so angry and feeling so much shame and literally just crying.
Dang it.
Because, I just didn't know what I was doing, and,
Yeah.
even a guy got out of his car and came up to me, he's like, "It's okay, like, I know you made a mistake." I don't think he knew how much that meant to me, but, I made a mistake, I didn't know the
Yeah.
rules, and I feel like even just stateside, right, like, having these experiences in these places that are within driving distance of where I grew up with, like, it really opened my eyes to
Mm.
the way people live. And it also, like, it was just so fun, Monica. It was so fun to, obviously I'm very food forward, so trying the seafood in Seattle and the tacos in San Diego and, all the quirky food carts in Portland, but even just like appreciating the little nuances of like how they live. I just feel like it was such a cool way to like shape our family culture from early on.
Mhm. You've been able to share some of those benefits already with getting outside of your normal bubble. Uh, and I feel like anyone who's been able to do that, even driving 4 hours away from your home, just how eye-opening it is, like you said, and how fun, and you get those nuances of life and you experience new things that not only expand your comfort zone and makes you ready to try something else, but you know what I love the most about what you said, Brooke? There's still going to be some uncomfortable moments, even with the good things. You're going to be out of your comfort zone. There will be frustrations and mistakes made. And still, you can leave any kind of adventure saying no regrets. I have no
Absolutely.
regrets that I did that I tried something different.
Absolutely. And I think even like having those hard experiences, yeah, you feel a little proud of yourself because you're like, I overcame
Mhm.
that, right? Like I'm okay and I learned from it. It of course gives you more compassion to people, right? When you mess
Yeah.
up and do something dumb. But yeah, I think that is, it's easy with travel. I mean, even going to Italy, take women to Italy and do these tours. And it's so easy to think everything's gonna be perfect, and spoiler alert, when you get to a city like Rome, it's just like going to a big city anywhere else. There is trash sometimes,
Mhm.
right? And there is graffiti here and there, and I think that it is a choice. I know it's a choice to choose to just appreciate the good and kinda just brush away maybe the things you don't love so much because there's so much good.
So much good. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, you never regret trying and doing something different and new. And it's going to be a story. Like
Oh,
cutting the line to the ferry, it's now a story. So, we're going to get into some tips on how people can lean into this side and develop this side of themselves as a way of kind of taking care of themselves and almost nourishing a new side of themselves and developing a new side of themselves, which I think is a form of self care. You did mention Italy, though. So, I think we have to just hit a quick pause before that and just say you host women on tours to Italy. And that came about because of this 3-month turned 18-month adventure as a family. Why? Like, what happened there?
I know. It's honestly, like, I couldn't have cooked this up on my own ever, so it is so crazy to see where life takes you. We kinda had this cadence, and I think we were just enjoying it, and after we had been traveling, we started in September, and I would book these places out, a couple or a few months in advance, and I just asked Cody, my husband, I'm like, "Could we go to Europe?" Could we, like, do
Yeah.
Rome? And I found a place, and it was a little bit above our budget, but it was still affordable. It was, like, definitely up on a hill, which we, fast forward, we sweat and sweat and sweat walking up and down that hill every day,
I
because it was,
bet.
like, the summer in Italy, which is like going to the deep south. But I found a good place, and then I found a place for the next month, and we found affordable plane tickets, and so we were honestly just we were going to create content for femalefoodie.com to add restaurant guides, and also we were so excited to have the experience, and I think what happened was I was just sharing everything. I was just
Mhm.
like, "Look at these water fountains, and look at this restaurant, and look at this pasta and pizza, and oh my gosh, we're eating gelato every day." Like, just the little joys of being over there, right? I was also sharing how hot it was and how I hadn't even broken my jeans out of my suitcase.
Mhm.
But I think people could sense, like, how much I really, really fell in love, with Italy. I had already been a couple times, but never at length like that, and people started asking early on, like, if I could organize a group trip, to which I said no. I was like, "I don't." I think I mean, even to this day, I just struggled with, like, why me? Am I
Mhm.
qualified to do that? Like, what makes
Oh,
me
I know the
qualified to do
feeling.
that?
Yeah.
And, I just kept brushing that aside, and then I remember I was in Utah in December that year. We had finally, we were wrapping up this really cool adventure, and someone sent me a DM, and I really should figure out who this person was because I feel like this was like the person that kind of, uh, pushed that
Tipping
first
point.
domino over. Yeah, it was a
Oh,
tipping point,
yeah.
but, they were like, "Will you please" I think I, like, did a Q&A or something. They're like, "Would you please do a trip to Italy?" And I told my husband, I'm like, "This person is asking for me to host a trip to Italy. We haven't even been there in months." And he was like, Why not?" I feel very blessed to have someone that's very
Mhm.
supportive and adventurous. That's definitely
We
a
all need
benefit.
a why not person.
We all need a why not. It could be your spouse, could be a parent, could be a sister, a friend. Anyway, long story short, Monica, I go over there. I already kind of pieced the tour together, but there were things I wanted to like see and touch and feel. For example, like the villa where we stay in Rome. I flew and met Giulio there, the owner, and he was like, "Wow, I can see that you're really serious about this." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna bring, 25 women over here without
Mm.
making sure it's actually amazing," which it was. That was really cool though, to go over there and put it together, but at this point, now we have hosted over 300 women on our tours, and we are, so excited to enter this new chapter where we are finding people that we feel have incredible communities that really value things like travel and exploration and seeing something beautiful and inviting them to host their own tours, such as
Oh,
yourself, Monica. So I hope I
yeah.
didn't jump too far ahead, but
No,
that's
otherwise we'd be
short and sweet.
burying the lead, and we are definitely gonna talk about that. But I love hearing about how even that that initial kernel of wanting to do something outside of the norm led to so many other things in your life. And even though I'm not, like, doing something as cool as you that way, I would say the same has been true for me. Anytime I've stepped out of my comfort zone, and I'm even talking about physically, like, territorially, and gotten out of that comfort zone and stretched myself, I have found new parts of myself. I've reconnected with old parts. I've had sparks for new things and new sides of myself that I had to develop. And I wanna lean into that before we actually talk about Italy a little bit more
Perfect.
and how I'm going to be hosting a female foodie tour with just our community, which is so beyond special. But let's talk to the women in my audience who are kind of at that starting line. And maybe they
Mhm.
haven't had much opportunity to adventure past even their town that they've lived in for a long time or forever. And because they're more used to these doable and small things, and traveling feels really big and perhaps out of reach, which we get. So let's go to the kernels of just adventuring first. And I would love to hear what tips you have for these listeners who know it's time to get outside of that comfort zone and to stretch themselves and reconnect with themselves in that in the process. What can they do? Where can they start? My love of having cleaner indoor air must be something you all know about me by now, because one of my most common questions that comes in on my direct messages is, "What's that air purifier again?" Well, it's Air Doctor, the award winning air purifier that eliminates 99.99% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors. But did you know that indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air? We know it in the Packer household because one of our kids happens to have pretty bad indoor allergies, and our new doctor was relieved to hear that we already have an air purifier in our home. Unlike other purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters, making the Packer household very happy customers. I recently burned something in my oven, and I was so happy to see that my Air Doctor kicked right into high gear automatically all on its own because it could sense that something was a little bit off in our main area. You can experience the joy of Air Doctor and breathe cleaner. Just head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code Monica to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty and $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. That's AIRDOCTORPRO.com using promo code Monica. For years, I have been teaching women how to do habits differently. I have been so grateful to see the concepts that have changed the most for you with responses from women of our community, like you are changing the habit game for all of us. And this is so needed. And you should write a book on this. Well, guess what? I am. And I'm so eager for you to get your hands on it, hopefully sometime in 2026. And since I can't share the title yet, and also since I may end up self-publishing, I need a committee of gal pals, if you will, like you, who are ready to be my early test readers, to pre-order the book, and to act as grassroots publicists the moment each of those steps are made ready. Would you like to be on that book launch committee? Get on the free list by going to aboutprogress.com/book committee. Even if you just want to be the first in the know with any book news, that's where you sign up. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/book committee. It's in the show notes for you. I can't wait to share as much as I can with you along the way, and I am already so grateful for your support. One of the ways I'm filling my cup is returning more to my teaching roots and offering affordable online workshops to this community on very niche topics that I know you both want and need. I recently did the How to Dream Again workshop, helping women gain clarity on what more they want in their lives. And coming up, I'll be teaching the Best Summer Ever workshop, practically guiding women to craft a summer for the scrapbooks. More online workshops are coming, but you can get information on and access to these workshops and the replays by going to aboutprogress.com/workshops. For just $17, you can invest some time and thought into making progress in your life and in ways per usual to this community that are both deep and practical. Again, check out what's available by going to aboutprogress.com/workshops, and workshops is plural. What can they do? Where can they start?
Oh, I love that you said who know it's time, because I think you do know when it's like, I need something, I need to explore or get out of my comfort zone or just appreciate, right? So many things that we have around us. I first, just to kind of preface, I think one thing that COVID did teach us was like there is so much at an arm's length that we can do and see that perhaps we haven't before. So that's kind of where I would start, is like, what is near you that you haven't seen or experienced? I was probably 24 years old before I visited the Grand Canyon, which is a 9-hour drive from where I grew up.
I've never been.
But like,
Love to. But yes,
you would love
it's
it,
there.
Monica. But I think that's a perfect example of like, you could drive there. It wouldn't feel crazy, right? It's not like
Yes.
Niagara Falls, right? It's
Yeah.
within your reach. You also probably know a lot of people who have been there. So I'll get to that in a second, but I think just first of all, picking something that feels like I could do this. Like I know a lot of people that have done it, and something that's local that doesn't feel like too much. And I think also picking your company carefully is important. I mean, I do love solo travel. I think it has a lot of benefits, but if you're feeling like maybe getting out of your comfort zone feels overwhelming, find someone that will be a good travel partner. And a good travel partner, is just, I think just having another person there is
Yeah.
going to make it fun automatically, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have an experience like I did at the fair, you'll probably laugh instead of cry, right? Or, if you get lost, like you're with someone, like it's always so fun to have that experience with someone else. But if you can find someone that's either been where you're wanting to go, or I think we all know that person that like loves to plan and loves to research. And maybe that's you, but if it's not, hinge onto that person, because they probably would really enjoy kind of putting that trip together. So that's kind of my first trip, is picking, I guess that's kind of two-part, but like picking somewhere that feels doable and that's
Mm-hmm.
nearby, and picking a travel companion that will enhance your trip for a myriad of reasons.
Sounds like a why not buddy. Just
Ah,
like your
yes.
built-in buddy with your husband. But
Yes.
again, it doesn't have to be a spouse. Find your why not buddy.
It could be anyone. It could literally, I mean, yeah, I think I love that. A why not buddy. Just someone that's game to like try something new. Maybe someone like ideally that has the same interest. Like if you love to hike, find someone else that loves to hike. My husband loves to golf, so a lot of his friends like to golf, right?
Mhm.
So finding someone that wants to do similar things to what you want to do. The
Great
second
advice.
thing I think is don't stress so much about the details and lean on the experts and
Mhm.
remember that everything's figure outable. I know you've probably heard that too by Marie
Yeah.
Forleo. She's a total, legend in the business space, but she has this saying, everything is figure outable, which just lends to the fact that you can figure out anything. If you want to go to the Grand Canyon, you can figure out the details, which are, oh, you either have to A, get the permit at the beginning of the year, or B, here's all these loopholes, right, that you can go through to actually go and hike the Grand Canyon. You can also figure out, the best driving itinerary and where to stay nearby. We are so lucky. I cannot believe the way ChatGPT has changed my life.
Yeah.
Are you on ChatGPT a
Uh-huh.
lot?
Yep, I pay the monthly subscription now. They got
Because
me.
I mean, literally, like, if I keep using the Grand Canyon example, but, like, I would put in ChatGPT, "I'm going here. Where's a highly rated hotel or Airbnb nearby that I could stay by? Oh, I want a pit stop, you know, 2 hours before we get there so we can buy groceries and stock up where." I mean, it is limitless what you can put in there, and the more you put in ChatGPT, the more it will know you and your preferences, and
Mhm.
so, I hate to say it, and it might sound a little harsh, but there's nothing that you can't figure out in this day and age if you're willing to put the time in. So, whether it's YouTube or buying a Rick Steves book,
Yes.
asking a friend, or using
Mhm.
ChatGPT, everything's figure outable. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can almost guarantee there's someone that has gone where you're going that either did a blog post or a vlog or something. And honestly, too, if you have the time, I like to cross compare. So,
Hmm.
like, I might ask ChatGPT, I might read a book, I might look at a blog, and then when I notice trends, we recently went to Kauai for my first time, and I really wanted to kind of veg the whole time, but I was like, "Okay, the Nepali coast seems kinda like a non-negotiable," so we did
Yeah.
it, right? So that's kinda what I like to do is I'll kinda cross compare, like, what am I hearing from these different resources, and then go for it. So, you've got your travel companion. You have the confidence to know that you can figure anything out, and my 3rd tip, Monica, is just to go for it.
Yeah.
I think that you could research every little weekend excursion or trip to the death of it. You could. You could spend, and that's some of the fun. I love the research. I think that's really important and it builds the anticipation. But there comes a point where you just pick the place you're gonna stay. You just pick the restaurant. You just pick the hike because you're gonna make it great and enjoy the journey no matter what you do. And the more that you are able to just pick something and move forward, the more confidence you'll gain. And when you do it the next time, you'll those abilities you've gained, they'll just kind of fall right back into place.
Mhm. I was thinking about, as you were talking, how my first time adventuring was a big kind of adventure. It's when I went on my study abroad to London. And if there's like a before and after in my life, that's one of them. Like that's arguably like the biggest one for me personally. The thing is though, like I had not been outside of my hometown and my college town. We live in Salt Lake now. When we moved here, I knew where nothing was at all because we never went south of Bountiful,
Uh-huh.
which was 10 minutes from my house in Farmington growing up. So
Uh-huh.
I did something bigger. But here's the thing about that trip. I couldn't have done it and been the one in charge. Like, so to go with some other, like another group where everything was planned for me, than to be attached to a smaller group every day and just to be able to be like, where are you guys going? Where are you going? Okay, I'm going to go with you. You know how to work the metro. Or whatever they call it there. I can't even remember now because
Tube,
it's
a
been
tube.
so, the tube. There we go.
Yeah.
Um, like I just attached myself. I was that permanent sardine to everybody else. And in the process, not only did it expand my world, like in a blow up way, in a good way, like, whoa, like a massive explosion, it taught me things about myself that I never knew. And it led me to have the courage. the next time I planned a trip, it was me and my younger sister who just graduated high school. And it was before like we were going to start our family. And so I knew this was my last chance, which I was not wrong at that point for me. And then I was the one in charge. And then I had to plan all of the things. And it was hugely outside of my comfort zone. So it's, I think when people think about traveling, they're thinking, I have to plan everything. You don't have to have that. And that's where our tour that we're going to do comes into play. But still, getting out there will be your before and after. It really will. It is life changing. And I'm not saying that lightly. And I also understand that it may seem entitled in some ways, or what's the word, privileged too. We can still, just what you said, start with where you are. Start with a couple hours. Because the truth is, I didn't have to go to London to expand my worldview. I could have done that even just a little bit farther away from where I currently lived, would have done that same thing.
I love that. I love how you point out how that was a big before and after, because I think, like you said, you can experience those shifts in so many different ways in the country, outside of the country, couple hours away from your home. And I don't know about you, Monica, but I do feel it just is empowering. You just
Yeah.
feel like the world is yours when you're comfortable, like just picking a place and going for it.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk to the women who we talked about earlier. And readiness is an important part of being like, okay, I'm ready to get out of my comfort zone and start to adventure close to home or farther away. If now's the time for far away, join us. I'm hosting a Female Foodie tour to Italy in the fall, October of 2026, but we are opening the spots up September of this year, 2025. And it's a Female Foodie tour. I'm just going to explain a little bit, Brooke. It's a Female Foodie tour because it's your signature tour, the tour that you have taken over 300 women on. And now you're expanding it with these selected partners of people who you love and are invested in their community. I'm saying you, Brooke, because she is. And we are one of those special groups. And it's just going to be our community who's invited to go on this tour, the signature Female Foodie tour, which I get to add my own elements to. What I'm going to do is instead of telling them about the whole trip, I'm going to encourage them to get on the wait list, because we're opening it only to the wait list on September 9th. And then as part of that, you and I are going to do a Q&A together to
Yes.
break down the whole trip. So those on the wait list will get access to that Q&A. So I will link to that in the show notes. They can go to aboutprogress.com/Italy to get to it too.
Okay.
So we'll save the info for all of that. But let's go back to the heart of why we're even talking about adventuring. You've hosted well over 300 women. What has surprised you the most about what women say these trips did for them personally, how they benefit from it?
My mind goes to a couple things. So the first thing that I think has surprised me the most, and maybe this is, now I understand it because I've thought about this a lot, but the thing that I think when I started doing this that surprised me the most was that people would say, I love that everything is planned. Which I kind of felt like, okay, I think they'll enjoy it. I was definitely, and still do try to find that perfect rhythm of having things planned and allowing people to kind of have their own moments and free time. But we have heard that again and again and again. And to me, too, it speaks to the women that come on our tours. They are busy at home with careers or taking care of families or maybe a little bit of both, right? So it doesn't really matter what they're doing at home. They are the decision makers. And they love that they literally get to just show up and everything is planned, from the transportation to where we're going to eat, which, by the way, are the best spots, to the tours we're doing, to who's going to host us on those tours, right? And not only is it just like what's going on that they're taking care of, but it's literally things that I've hand pieced together as my absolute favorite. We're extraordinarily particular about that. So, I mean, we even have, some of the meals that we eat during the week, we'll pick a special menu because it can feel overwhelming when you get to a new country and you're looking at just this whole thing and you're trying to figure out what it is. Like, we not only curate each meal, but we look at the whole week. Go, okay, if they have carbonara on Monday, then they need to eat something else, right? When we have
Yeah.
pasta again the next day or whatever. So that was something that surprised me, and I've evolved as these tours have evolved. It's a huge compliment. The other thing that has surprised me is we generally on these tours get to talk to every single guest about what their favorite part of the trip was, and it's different for everyone.
Mhm.
And it's really such a privilege to see that everyone has their cup filled in a different way. And when I went on that initial trip to piece the tour together, I just had one son, and now I have three. And I think for me, like the more that life gets chaotic and the more kids we've had and the more commitments that I have, the more I realize it's so, so important for women to fill their cup
Mm.
and to like do something that really resets them and really helps take care of them. And a lot of those things are similar for women. And some of those nuances are slightly different, but we have a lot of like slow, relaxed meals where everyone's eating their food hot. They're not in a
Hmm.
rush and they can really visit with their travel companion or the person sitting next to them. When they're at a museum, they're not like, oh, I should probably go because, you know, we love our kids and our spouses, right? But, oh, my kid isn't loving
Responsibilities
this,
await.
right?
Yeah.
Or they can just enjoy. Like if they want
Mm.
to sit and stare at the Sistine Chapel for 15 minutes, they can. And then just having time to reflect, I think is so important. So that really has surprised me, Monica. Just I think I set out to piece together this perfect trip, and I'm so proud of the itinerary. I'm so proud of the flow of the week, but I just didn't anticipate seeing that kind of transformation over the week within each guest.
Mm. I'm just taking that in because that's why we're doing this. This is why. I know for some people who have never been out of the country, like me, my first time, it will be a major leap to do it. For other people who've had the chance to adventure close to home or far, you know already what this can bring to you. But it truly is your opportunity to be taken care of in ways both deep and practical, which really resonates with our community. This is what we've always been about, both deep and practical. So, I mean, so much more to come in terms of information side. Make sure you're on the wait list so you can come to the Q&A Brooke and I are going to do together. But I really hope people will come. And if not, still find ways to stretch themselves and adventure where they can and how they can. And on that note, Brooke, first tell us where people can go find you. And then let's end with the final question, which is always what is one small way listeners can take action on what they learned today?
Monica, thank you. I absolutely love any chance I get to talk with you. So it's been a huge honor to be on your show again. I'd love to connect with you guys either on Instagram at Female Foodie or my Substack at femalefoodie.substack.com. And one way that listeners can take action on, what we've discussed today is my husband's grandpa, who passed away about 7 years ago. He had a saying that he shared a lot, especially around the holidays, but it's all about the anticipation. And I think anticipation is really powerful. I think it separates our okay days from good days. I think it gives us hope for something because I think so much of us, it is hard. We live in a world where social media, I think it kind of skews our perception of like, what should every day look like?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's really powerful to have something to look forward to. In light of our topic and conversation, Monica, adventure is, it could be a date night, like a really
Mm-hmm.
fun date night, or it could be a weekend getaway, or it could be a big trip to Europe that you're going to take in a year or 18 months. And I think my one way that people can take action is just like start moving forward to something today. Pick something, find something that fits in your timeline or budget or whatever it is that like you said at the beginning of the episode, Monica, you'll know when it's time and you'll know what you need. I think we all kind of inherently know. We might not know how we're going to get there, but we know kind of what we need and what our heart is set on. And just pick that and work toward it. Just take a little step each day, either book the Airbnb, or book the flight, or just text the friend, whatever it is. But I do find that having something to anticipate is so important. It's so interesting, but after our tours end, a lot of times the women will say, oh, like, what am I going to look forward to now? I feel sad that the tour ends, but I feel so happy that they've had joy, not just on the trip, but looking forward to it all year
Mm-hmm.
long.
And we're going to get that. We're going to get that. Oh, Brooke, this was just a fabulous conversation. Again, thank you for returning to About Progress, and I'm so grateful for your time and can't wait for this tour. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Monica. We're so honored to have you host a tour, and I'm so glad we could chat today.
Oh, you were fabulous. That was even better. I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. I'll now share the progress pointers. These are the notes I took so you don't have to. You can get them in a graphic form each week by signing up for my newsletter at aboutprogress.com/newsletter. And that graphic form is an expanded version of the simplified notes you'll hear. Number 1, adventure doesn't have to be big to be meaningful. Number 2, find your why not buddy. Number 3, everything is figure-outable. Number 4, let anticipation fuel your joy. And number 5, you grow when you go. I would love to be your why not buddy and go to Rome with you. To find out way more details on our exclusive tour partnering with Female Foodie and get on the wait list, which also means you can attend the Q&A that Brooke and I are going to do together, you can go to aboutprogress.com/Italy. This trip is a companionship model, but if you're a single rider, there still may be an opportunity for you to come. You simply need to fill out a special survey that I have linked in the show notes so that I could potentially pair single riders from our About Progress community. This podcast is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club make my work with About Progress free and available to all. In return, they get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits from more time to more content with me, including an upcoming hike we are doing in person and a garden party also in person, and a book club this fall with our Ride or Die members. You can check it all out by going to aboutprogress.com/support. You can always support the show for free. This month, I turned 39 years old, and if you want to give me and the podcast a little boost, I would love for you to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, as we've only had 2 left so far this year at the time of the recording. I really appreciate you doing so. Thank you for listening. Now go and do something with what you learned today.
You know, I'm so sorry, Monica. Like, can you hear that machine?
No,
Okay, that
I
means my
can't.
mic is doing a good job. Okay, there's someone like drilling something outside, and I'm like,
I
okay, I'll
can't
just
hear
keep
it.
going.
I can't hear it. You're doing great.
Okay. Do you want me to talk about Yellowstone now and segue into
Sure.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can talk
Okay.
about them. Yeah.
Um,
You're saying I grew into it.
yeah.
That's where.
Yeah, I feel like even though my personality does naturally lend to adventure